I love when people say, "My dog won't listen to me." And I ask them, what makes you think your dog is supposed to listen to you? If we want our dogs to do what we ask them to do, we have to teach them. We can't expect them to know what we want them to do just because we re their owner. So if you're frustrated that your dog isn't listening to you, it's probably because you haven't taught them what you want them to do, or you've used the wrong methods in teaching them. Hi, I am a professional dog trainer with over 25 years of experience, training dogs and teaching people how to train their dogs. On this channel, I share my knowledge to help you have the best possible relationship with your dog. So, if you'd like to learn more about how to train your dog, make sure to subscribe to get notified every time I post new videos. Now, let's talk about teaching your dog to do commands the right way. You may be asking, what's the right way? Is there a right way to teach a dog? Well, there's definitely a right way and a wrong way. And most of the things people are doing today are actually the wrong way. If you want to teach your dog to come when you call, you don't simply start calling your dog's name and saying, "Come here," and getting frustrated when they don't come. Your dog doesn't know that you want them to come. You have to teach them. You can't just expect your dog to know what you want them to do. So if you've ever said, "Oh, my dog's stubborn," or "Oh, my dog just doesn't listen," well, that's because you haven't taught your dog to listen. So if we want our dog to listen to us, we have to teach them. And the first thing we need to do is capture their attention. So we use something called luring. We lure the dog into position and then we mark the behavior and reward the dog for being in that position. Now you might be asking, well, what do you mean by mark? What I mean by marking is using a marker word like yes or good or yes. You got it right when the dog does the behavior you want, then immediately following that with a reward. The marker word lets the dog know exactly what they did that was so good. Then when you give them the reward, whatever the reward is, whether it's food or praise or petting, it reinforces that behavior. For example, if you wanted to teach your dog to go to their bed, you would take some high-value treats and you would put those treats around the dog's bed until eventually the dog figures out that they can go to their bed and get a treat. In other words, you're capturing the behavior. As soon as the dog goes to their bed, you would say yes or good or whatever your marker word is and give them a treat. That tells the dog, hey, this is great. I love going to my bed. And the dog will associate that behavior with a positive feeling because they received a reward for doing that behavior. Another common command that people want to teach their dogs is leave it. People usually want to teach their dogs leave it so that they stop chewing on something they were not supposed to chew on. So if you want to teach your dog to leave something alone, start by putting something on the floor. Whether it's a toy or a piece of food, something that's enticing to your dog, and then backing up and saying, leave it. Then once the dog leaves it alone, which hopefully is pretty quick, then you say yes or good and give them a treat. Now what you're redoing is capturing the behavior of the dog leaving the item alone and then rewarding them for doing that. Once the dog understands that leave it means that they get a reward, they'll start associating the word leave it with that behavior. Some people will get frustrated with their dog because they say leave it and the dog doesn't leave it. And they keep saying leave it and they might even punish the dog because the dog didn't leave it alone. But again, the dog doesn't know what leave it means. The only way the dog knows what leave it means is if you've captured the behavior and rewarded them for leaving it alone. You can also teach your dog to come when you call them by luring them into position and then rewarding them for being in that position. For example, if you want to teach your dog to come when you call them, start by calling your dog his name and saying, come in, then luring them with a treat. As soon as the dog takes even one step towards you, say yes or good and give them the treat. That tells the dog that going towards you is a really good thing. Once the dog understands that, then you can gradually back away and eventually the dog will come all the way to you. A lot of people will get upset at their dog for not coming when they call them, and they'll say things like, bad dog, or I'm gonna take away your privileges, or no more playtime for you. But again, the dog doesn't know why they're being punished. They don't understand what they're supposed to do. And punishing them for not doing something that you haven't taught them is very unfair to the dog, and it causes the dog to become fearful of their owner. because the dog doesn't know why they re being yelled at or punished. Another common command that people want to teach their dogs is stay. Now, there's several different ways you can teach stay, but all of them involve luring the dog into position and then rewarding them for staying in that position. A lot of people want to teach their dog to stay on the mat or stay in their place, and they'll get frustrated when the dog gets off the mat or off their place. So if you want to teach your dog to stay on their mat, put a treat on the mat and then say, stay. Then, once the dog stays on the mat, say, yes, and give them the treat. Then gradually you can phase out the treat and just use praise or petting as a reward. Again, you could get frustrated at your dog for getting off the mat and say, bad dog, or get back on the mat, or even push the dog back on the mat. But again, the dog doesn't understand why they're being punished. And these are just a few examples of how you can teach your dog basic commands. But it's important to remember that every dog is an individual, and what works for one dog may not work for another. Sometimes it may take longer for a dog to learn a command, so you have to be patient. If you're having trouble with any particular command, consider breaking it down into smaller steps and rewarding your dog for making progress. It's also important to make sure that your dog is getting plenty of exercise and mental stimulation. A tired dog is much more likely to focus on you and learn commands than a bored or pent-up dog. So make sure to take your dog for walks, play with them, and provide them with plenty of opportunities to explore and sniff around. By following these tips, you'll be able to teach your dog commands in a positive and effective way. This will strengthen your bond with your dog and make them a well-behaved and obedient companion. If you're looking for more resources to help you train your dog, check out the links below. With a little patience and consistency, you'll be able to teach your dog anything. If you found this video helpful, please hit the thumbs up button below. And if you'd like to see more videos like this one, please subscribe. I appreciate all of you who like and subscribe because it helps spread this information to more people. I'm here encouraging you to get out there and have fun with your dog.